Okay, this is going to be a 4x6 acrylic painting. This is on a 5x7 sheet of canvas, and I am going to paint this with acrylics, and this is just the very first thing that I do. I have to use a 4x6 picture and I mark it off. I usually use a black color pencil. It's just I'm so used to doing that, but you could use just like a lighter pencil if you wanted to. But the first thing I do before I do anything else is where I've marked on the canvas with a color pencil or a pencil or whatever. When I'm doing an acrylic painting, I outline the entire outline of everywhere I've got a mark with black acrylic paint. And just as a point of reference, and then I'll pause it and outline it completely before I go to the next stage. A lot of times some beginning artists get frustrated because the sketch, after it's painted, it never looks like you would anticipate it to. Sometimes I will even see, I forgot to draw that right there. I will totally make changes when I'm painting something. Okay, I'm going to pause right there and I'm going to finish outlining this, and I'm using a very small brush. It's a 0 round. So I'll be back. Okay, the next thing I do is do the flesh. Now and this is just how I do it, usually every acrylic paint series has their own color of flesh tone, and that's what I'm using here. Now everywhere that it's going to be a flesh tone, you know, the skin, I go ahead and paint that. You better be sure though what you just outlined is dry, or you might get a little bit of runniness. And two, this is every now and then I will dip a little bit of the flesh and put a little bit of white in there and try to go ahead and get some of the highlights as I go. And I'll go up here and go ahead and go in the face so y'all can see where I'll completely do her arm and then in this area, but I'm going to go ahead even up here in the eyes, y'all. See, that might be a little bit wet right there, but that's okay, because if it does make it a little bit gray, that's good too, because it doesn't matter, because after it completely dries we go back and put in highlights anyway that really makes it pop, because that part of the eye I know it's white anyway, but if you'll look even in your own eye, it is not solid white like Clorox. Just be careful so you don't lose your outline, which I can paint it back in, but until you get used to doing that, it might be a little bit hard. Like I said, if I would have kind of waited and let it dry a little bit more. I get impatient and I can't help it. Okay, I'm starting to get some runnage there too. Okay, I'm going to pause it for there, and I'm just going to flesh her in, and then I'll come back. Okay, I have fleshed her in. Now what I'm going to do next is the background. Back in here, in these areas. And what I'm going to do, these are violets. So the violets that grow where I live are really, really, really deep purple. And so for the background, I'm just going to use the same color of purple paint, which the color of purple that I'm using is from the Liquitex Basics tube, and it's called Dioxazine Purple. So that's what color is going to be the base color for my violets. So I'm just going to get the Liquitex white, and I'm going to really, really, really lighten that down. Pretty light, like several shades, and I'm going to get that and go in the background. And this is just something that I've learned over the years, especially with acrylic paint. Like I will use, since I started with the Liquitex Basics, it comes in a big pack, big box. I think it's got like 36 colors in it. But it doesn't matter if you're using tube paint or Winsor Newton, Galleria, or the bottle paint like you can find at any craft store. Just make sure you stay with that paint brand in your painting. And what I mean by that is, I will use, since I started off with these, I really like the colors in that. For this entire painting, I will use nothing but Liquitex Basics, the color palette that's in that box. Because if I use this one and then change my mind about the flowers and want to use another purple, even though it might be called Dioxazine Purple in another brand, the purples don't match. And it took me a long time to figure out what I was doing wrong in my painting, because even though the color was purple, it seemed to clash with another purple. And it's because it was two different brands of paint. And I guess the reason that is different companies use a different base to make their paint from each other, and that's how come the colors won't match if you do that. And it took me a long time to figure out, because you know, my paintings would be so pretty, but there was just something about them that looked off just a little bit when I first started painting. But that I finally figured out that that's what it was, and once I stay consistent with the paint all the way through, it gives a nice even flow of color, and there is no different variation in the colors. Okay, so I'm going to finish painting the background. And if you get some on your flowers, that's okay, because with acrylic paint, that's why I love it. You can paint over a spot if you don't like it once it's dry. Okay. After I did the background, which I didn't film this, but I chose the green. There's just a little bit in this painting. And went ahead and painted that, like I said, green. And I went ahead and painted that first petal. And I'm using the same purple that I used here in the background, that dioxazine purple. And I'm just leaving it as it is. I'm not putting any white in it. And I start down here, and I try to go up in one swipe. And on, I do each individual petal. Okay, now I've got the outline. See that petal? I'll do another one to show you, but I go ahead and dip it in white and smooth it out a little bit, just so it won't be stark white, and then kind of fill that in. I try to do it in just a couple of strokes, because you can paint and paint and paint and paint with acrylic, and if you're not careful, you'll wipe it off, or it'll get muddy or something. And that might look blue on your screen, but that is really a deep purple. And this was just I forgot to say, this was that Frederick's canvas. And if you, now I like the dark black lines of the outline, but if you don't like that, just paint over it and the line will disappear, and then you'll just have to go back with highlights and stuff if you want to, so you can have a definite, not line, that's not what I'm saying, edge. I like the sharp edges. I guess that's why I like the black outline, but that's just my preference. Okay, let me do one more. I don't color that center part yet because it's yellow. Again, just the solid purple. I am going to paint right there, just not that. Okay, bring it up just that way, just a little bit. Now dip it in white, smear it a little bit just to give it a lighter, slightly lighter shade. I'm sure other artists could probably do that in one stroke. I'm not one of those artists. I guess I use so many strokes because I try to hide the texture of the canvas. I think that's just a sensory issue. Okay, see, I can see the canvas here, so that, uh-oh. See what happens? Acrylic dries quick. So I dipped it back in the purple. Sometimes the little mistakes you make can actually turn out good. I didn't mean for it to be that white right there, but it just gives it a nice highlight. But I watered that just straight purple, that dioxazine purple, down just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to finish painting all those violets that are on here, just like that. And then if I do something else different down through here, I'll tell you.